Some men don't speak much, not because they have nothing to say, but because their mind is already full of conversations no one else can hear. While the world moves quickly, chasing noise, approval, and constant stimulation, these men move inward. They pause, they observe, they question, and often they are misunderstood for it. A deep-thinking man does not experience life on the surface. Every moment passes through layers of interpretation. A simple sentence can echo in his mind for hours. A brief interaction can trigger reflection that lasts for days. Where others react, he reflects. Where others accept, he analyzes. This is not a habit he chooses consciously. It is the way his mind is wired. Psychologically, deep thinkers possess a heightened level of internal awareness. Their mind is always active, not in chaos, but in depth. Thoughts don't rush randomly. They sync. They connect to memories, meanings, patterns, and emotions. This makes them incredibly perceptive, but it also makes them vulnerable from a young age. Many deep-thinking men learn that the world does not reward slowness of thought. Schools praise quick answers, not thoughtful silence. Social spaces reward confidence, not contemplation. Over time, the deep thinker realizes something painful. His natural way of processing reality does not fit easily into a fast, loud world. So he adapts. He speaks less. He watches more. He chooses words carefully because he understands their weight. Silence becomes his refuge. Not because he fears expression, but because silence gives his mind room to breathe. In silence, his thoughts can exist fully, without being interrupted or misunderstood. This is where the psychology becomes complex. Deep thinkers often feel disconnected even when surrounded by people. Not because they feel superior, but because their inner world feels heavier than most conversations can carry. Small talk feels empty. Repetition feels exhausting. Surface-level interactions leave them mentally unsatisfied, as if they are starving in a room full of snacks but no real food. Emotionally, this creates a quiet loneliness, not the kind that screams for attention, but the kind that sits calmly in the background. A deep thinker may laugh, socialize, and function normally, yet still feel unseen. His thoughts are too layered, his emotions too nuanced to be easily shared. When he does try to express them, they often come out incomplete, misunderstood, or simplified. Over time, he learns another lesson. Not everyone needs to understand him. This realization is both freeing and isolating. Freeing because it removes the pressure to explain himself constantly. Isolating because it reinforces the sense that he walks a different mental path. Psychology shows that deep thinkers often develop strong internal standards. They judge themselves more harshly than anyone else ever could. They replay mistakes long after others have forgotten them. They analyze decisions repeatedly, searching for the most ethical, meaningful, or authentic choice. This internal dialogue never truly turns off. At night, when the world sleeps, his mind stays awake. Sauts arrivent invités. Past conversations replay. Future possibilities unfold. Questions without clear answers demand attention. This is why deep thinkers are often drawn to solitude. Not because they hate people, but because solitude is the only place where their mind can roam freely without interruption. Yet solitude is a double-edged sword. In healthy amounts, it fuels creativity, insight, and self-understanding. In excess, it can turn into overthinking, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. A deep-thinking man is always walking a thin psychological line between wisdom and mental fatigue. One of the most misunderstood traits of deep thinkers is their emotional depth. They feel intensely, but they don't always show it. Their emotions are processed internally before they are expressed externally. This can make them appear calm or detached, when in reality, their emotional experience is rich and complex. Love, for a deep thinker, is not impulsive. It is thoughtful, careful, and often overwhelming. He does not fall easily, but when he does, he falls deeply. He analyzes connection, meaning, and future implications. This makes him loyal, but also cautious. Trust is not given quickly, because once given, it is given fully. Psychologically, deep thinkers fear shallow bonds more than loneliness. They would rather be alone than emotionally unfulfilled. This is why they may withdraw from relationships that feel misaligned, even if those relationships appear successful from the outside. Their inner compass is guided by depth, not appearance. As life progresses, a deep-thinking man begins to realize that his mind is both his greatest strength and his greatest challenge. The same thinking that gives him insight can also trap him in loops of doubt. The same awareness that makes him empathetic can make him emotionally drained. But with maturity, something changes. He stops fighting his nature. Instead of trying to think less, he learns to think better. Instead of suppressing his depth, he learns to direct it. He understands that not every thought deserves his attention. Not every question needs an immediate answer. This is where psychological growth begins. He learns stillness. The roots of deep thinking often trace back to moments that never looked significant at the time. Small experiences, quiet observations, times when a man learned that understanding the world required watching it carefully rather than rushing into it. Many deep thinkers were once children who listened more than they spoke, not because they were shy, but because they were absorbing everything around them. Psychologically, the mind of a deep thinker develops early patterns of meaning-making. Where other children move quickly from one moment to the next, he lingers. He notices tone changes in voices, pauses in conversations, subtle emotional shifts. He learns that what is unsaid often matters more than what is spoken. This heightened sensitivity is not taught. It is discovered. In environments where emotional expression is limited or misunderstood, deep thinkers turn inward. They learn to process feelings internally because external processing feels unsafe or ineffective. This internalization becomes a lifelong habit. Thoughts become companions. Reflection becomes protection. Over time, this creates a powerful internal world, but it also creates tension. A deep-thinking man often feels as though he is living in two realities at once. One exists outwardly, where he participates, works, communicates, and functions. The other exists inwardly, where meaning is constantly being examined. This dual existence can be exhausting. He is not just living moments. He is interpreting them. This is where overthinking begins to emerge. Overthinking is not a flaw of intelligence. It is the shadow side of awareness. When a mind is capable of deep analysis, it does not always know when to stop. It replays scenarios, searches for hidden meanings, and imagines alternative outcomes. The deep thinker often asks himself questions others never consider. Did I say the right thing? Did I miss something important? What does this situation really mean? These questions are not driven by insecurity alone. They are driven by a desire for accuracy, truth, and understanding. However, without emotional boundaries, they can become overwhelming. The mind becomes a courtroom where every thought is cross-examined endlessly. Psychologically, this is where many deep thinkers struggle in silence. They may appear calm, capable, and thoughtful, while internally battling mental fatigue. Because their struggles are invisible, they often go unnoticed. And because they are used to self-reliance, they rarely ask for help. Another defining trait of deep thinkers is their relationship with emotion. They do not feel emotions in brief bursts. Emotions arrive, settle, and stay. A moment of sadness can unfold into philosophical reflection. A moment of joy can raise questions about meaning and permanence. Love becomes not just a feeling, but an experience to be understood. This depth makes them incredibly empathetic. A deep-thinking man can sense emotional shifts in others before words are spoken. He reads between lines. He notices discomfort, hesitation, and unspoken pain. This makes him a safe presence for others, even when he himself feels misunderstood. People often open up to him without knowing why. His listening feels rare. But empathy has a cost. Absorbing the emotions of others adds weight to an already active mind. Without release, this weight accumulates. This is why deep thinkers often need time alone after social interaction. It is not avoidance. It is emotional recovery. As adulthood unfolds, deep thinkers often find themselves questioning traditional measures of success. Wealth, status, recognition. These things hold less appeal if they lack meaning. A deep-thinking man is not motivated by achievement alone. He is motivated by purpose. He wants his actions to align with his values. This makes career choices complicated. He may excel intellectually, but struggle with environments that prioritize speed over depth. Meetings feel rushed. Decisions feel superficial. The pressure to conform clashes with his internal need for authenticity. As a result, he may change paths multiple times, not because he is lost, but because he is searching for alignment. Psychology shows that deep thinkers often experience delayed fulfillment. They take longer to find their place, but when they do, their commitment is profound. They're not interested in temporary success. They are building something internal first. In relationships, this same pattern appears. A deep-thinking man does not rush connection. He observes. He evaluates emotional safety. He seeks understanding rather than excitement. This can be misinterpreted as disinterest. In reality, it is discernment. He knows that shallow bonds drain him, while deep ones nourish him. When he loves with intention. But love also exposes his vulnerability. His mind analyzes not only his own feelings, but his partner's. He may worry about misalignment, emotional imbalance, or future incompatibility. This does not mean he doubts love itself. It means he takes it seriously. Over time, many deep thinkers learn a crucial psychological lesson. Not every thought requires resolution. This realization marks a turning point. Instead of trying to control the mind, he learns to observe it. Thoughts become passing events rather than absolute truths. Emotional awareness deepens without becoming overwhelming. The mind shifts from constant analysis to conscious reflection. This is where wisdom begins to replace mental noise. A deep-thinking man who reaches this stage becomes grounded. He still thinks deeply, but he is no longer consumed by his thoughts. He understands when to engage the mind and when to rest it. He learns that silence is not always an answer, but it is often a beginning. And in this balance, his depth becomes a strength rather than a burden. As a deep-thinking man grows older, he begins to notice how society responds to quiet strength. The world often confuses silence with weakness and depth with hesitation. Masculinity, as is commonly portrayed, rewards dominance, speed, and outward confidence. The deep thinker does not naturally fit this mold. He does not announce himself. He does not rush to prove. He does not compete for attention. And yet, psychologically, his masculinity is not absent. It is internalized. His strength is measured not by volume, but by restraint. He knows when to speak and when silence carries more authority. He does not need to overpower others to feel secure. His confidence is quiet, rooted in self-understanding rather than external validation. This often unsettles people. They expect masculinity to be loud. When it is calm, they don't know how to categorize it. This mislabeling follows him through life. In professional environments, he may be overlooked because he does not self-promote aggressively. His ideas are thoughtful, layered, and well-considered, but they are not always delivered with urgency. He waits for the right moment, the right language, the right context. Sometimes that moment never comes. Sometimes others speak faster and louder, and his depth remains unseen. But psychology shows that deep thinkers often influence environments in subtle ways. They shape culture quietly. They stabilize teams emotionally. They bring long-term thinking into short-term spaces. When chaos arises, they do not panic. Their mind has already explored worst-case scenarios. They remain composed, not because they are detached, but because they have rehearsed complexity internally. This calm becomes their leadership. People begin to notice that when a deep thinker speaks, it matters. His words carry weight because they're not frequent. He does not waste language. He does not speak to impress. He speaks to clarify. Over time, others begin to listen differently. Creativity is another domain where deep thinkers thrive. Their minds are not linear. Thoughts connect across disciplines, experiences, and emotions. They see patterns others miss. Ideas are born in silence, not stimulation. This is why many deep thinkers are writers, philosophers, artists, designers, and strategists. They are not creating to be seen. They are creating to understand. Creation becomes their form of expression. If adding value in your life, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. When words fail in conversation, they find language in art, structure, systems, or ideas. Their work often carries emotional depth, even when it appears intellectual. They are translating their inner world into something external, not for applause, but for coherence. Purpose, for a deep thinker, is never accidental. He does not stumble into meaning. He searches for it, and this search can take time. He may feel behind compared to others. Friends may settle into careers, relationships, identities, while he is still questioning. This comparison creates doubt. Am I wasting time? Am I overthinking life? But psychology reveals a different truth. Deep thinkers are not slow. They are thorough. They are building internal alignment before external commitment. When they finally choose a path, they commit fully. Their purpose is not easily shaken because it has been examined from every angle. What looks like delay is often preparation. Emotionally, deep thinkers begin to mature when they accept that not everyone will understand them, and that understanding is not required for fulfillment. This acceptance brings peace. They stop trying to compress their depth to fit shallow spaces. They stop apologizing for needing solitude. They stop explaining their silence. They begin to honor their nature. This self-acceptance transforms relationships. Instead of seeking someone who completes them, they seek someone who understands them. Instead of fearing loneliness, they respect it. Instead of fighting their mind, they collaborate with it. At this stage, the deep thinker becomes integrated. His mind, emotions, and actions begin to align. Thinking no longer feels like a burden. It feels like guidance. Reflection no longer traps him. It grounds him. Silence no longer isolates him. It restores him. He learns one of the most powerful psychological truths. Depth is not meant to separate him from the world. It is meant to shape how he engages with it. When a deep-thinking man steps forward from this place, he does so with clarity. His words are fewer, but his presence is stronger. His actions are intentional. His life begins to reflect the quiet wisdom he has been cultivating all along. If you like the video, please subscribe inside the human mind. At some point, every deep-thinking man reaches a quiet crossroads. Not a dramatic moment, not a visible turning point, just a subtle internal shift where the mind grows tired of carrying weight that no longer serves it. The questions are still there, but they no longer demand answers with urgency. The thoughts still arrive, but they no longer dominate the room. This is the moment when understanding replaces struggle. The deep thinker begins to see that his mind was never the enemy. It was simply untrained. For years, it searched relentlessly because it believed clarity would bring safety. Every analysis, every reflection, every mental replay was an attempt to protect him from pain, from regret, from uncertainty. Once he recognizes this, compassion replaces frustration. He stops asking himself why he thinks so much and begins asking how to think with balance. Psychologically, this is integration. The mind and emotions stop pulling in different directions. Instead of resisting thoughts, he observes them. Instead of chasing certainty, he accepts complexity. He realizes that some truths cannot be solved, only lived. This acceptance brings peace. Not the kind of peace that eliminates discomfort, but the kind that allows discomfort to exist without control. He understands that life is not meant to be fully understood before it is lived. Depth, once awake, becomes a lens through which life appears richer. The deep-thinking man begins to trust himself. He no longer second-guesses every decision. He listens to his intuition, knowing it is informed by years of reflection. He does not rush choices, but he no longer delays them out of fear. Action and thought finally align. This is when his presence changes. People feel calmer around him. Conversations slow down. His words land with intention. He does not dominate space, but he shapes it. His silence feels safe, not awkward. His insight feels earned, not performative. He understands something essential. Not every thought is meaningful, but the ability to choose which thoughts deserve attention is power. The mind becomes a tool rather than a battlefield. Overthinking fades not because thinking stops, but because awareness deepens. He knows when to engage depth and when to rest it. In relationships, he becomes emotionally available without losing himself. He communicates honestly without over-explaining. He loves without drowning in analysis. He accepts that connection does not require constant certainty, only presence. This is where fulfillment emerges, not from external success alone, but from internal alignment. The deep thinker stops trying to escape his nature and begins to live in harmony with it. His life may still be quiet, but it is no longer heavy. His solitude is no longer isolating. It is chosen, and in that choice lies freedom. He no longer envies those who move through life without reflection. He sees the value in his own path. His depth has taught him patience, empathy, resilience, and self-awareness. These qualities are not loud, but they endure. The psychology of a deep-thinking man is not about complexity for its own sake. It is about meaning. It is about living deliberately in a world that rewards haste. It is about understanding that wisdom often grows in silence. In the end, the deep thinker does not disappear into his mind. He emerges from it, grounded, clear, whole. And when he finally looks outward, he is no longer searching for himself in the world. He already knows who he is. All right, mates, if I add some valuable in your life, please subscribe my channel.